Welcome to Midnight Menu Plus One. I'm Ray Canada.
And I'm Margot Moss. Midnight Menu Plus One is a food lifestyle show on the podcast network, itsneworleans.com. Tonight we're at the NOLA Brewing Tap Room in the Irish Channel.
The Tap Room is NOLA Brewing's on-site watering hole. They serve NOLA Brewing's a regular lineup of craft beers as well as 8 specialty brews you can't get anywhere else.
And the Tap Room is open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m.
Friends, I'm so glad you could join us. Each week on Midnight Menu Plus One, Margot and I invite a member of New Orleans restaurant and food community to have a beer with us. And we invite them to bring along their own guest, a plus one. We never know who the plus one's going to be. It can be a friend, a neighbor, a family member, a restaurant colleague. It could be really anyone.
Our special guest on Midnight Menu Plus One tonight is Chris Roos of Holton Meats.
I cannot wait to talk to him, but before we do that, wanted to know if you had any culinary adventures, anything worth reporting?
Well, I ate at the Booray.
Oh, how was it?
For the first time. It was delicious. Cool. The wings.
Nice.
I had the like lemongrass and forget what else, but it was delicious. The glaze
Awesome.
was unbelievable. Have you
Cool.
been there?
Have not been there yet, but I've been dying to. That's on my very short list. It's like top 3 of places I want to go that I haven't been yet.
Well, I'll go back with you because they have
Cool.
these amazing daiquiris, but it was early in the day, and I couldn't have one that day, so I'm gonna go back and try them. But
amazing daiquiris are good because there's lots of crappy daiquiris in this town.
Yeah, they sounded delightful and
All right,
fresh.
cool. I like the look of it. They did a nice job of the place. Mm-hmm. We love the people there too. And in fact, that reminds me, loosely affiliated with them, or maybe strongly affiliated with them, is Adrienne Resch. Remember her? She was our first guest ever on the show 3 years ago this week. This is our 3-year anniversary.
Exciting.
Yeah. I know. It's so it's kind of neat. So it all kind of comes all around again. For me, the only thing worth noting is I'm becoming addicted to Emerald's Delmonico's happy hour. It's such a great deal. So Kathy and I go there. As long as you go before 7, you don't have to get a reservation. Every time we've been like 3 times now. We just walk in, and it's 50-cent char-grilled oysters that are every bit as good as any place in the city. And pretty much most of the cocktail list, all kinds of specialty cocktails and everything, half price, so like $5, $6 tops. Some are like $4. So we have several drinks each, and we eat all the oysters we can handle, and we had the small plates for $5, and we leave stuffed, just feeling overwhelmed, for a total with like a 25% tip we'll leave. With tax and everything else, it'll be like less than $30 a person. Crazy.
Wow. Excellent.
Yeah, you just got to eat early, but it's terrific. So we're trying to pace ourselves. We don't want to burn out. So we're going we're going to make it like every 3 weeks, I think. We're going to slow down a little bit, but we're going to go like every third Friday, I think. So anyway,
Wonderful.
That was my biggest one. Today I walked 14 miles to the Marigny and back, and but I ate at places I always talk about on the show, so we'll mention them.
All right. Well, let's get to our special guest tonight.
So, Margot, our special guest today, Christopher Roos, is here, and he seems to be sober.
Relatively.
And so we're excited to have Christopher here from Holton Meat Company.
Yep, Holton Meat Company.
All right.
So welcome, Chris. Can you tell us a little bit about the history of Holton Meat Company and where it is today?
Sure. Well, Holton Meat Company actually started off back in the 60s by a man named Robert Riesfeld. Robert was an uptown guy, lived right off of Henry Clay, and started a company called Riesfeld and Sons.
Huh.
Going forward a little bit further into the 80s, he partnered up with my stepfather, a man by the name of Bo Holton, who is a relative legend in this town for his tennis abilities. He's in the Tennis Hall of Fame. He's
the National Tennis Hall of Fame?
No, but the Southern Tennis Hall of Fame. Also played for LSU, captain of the tennis team at LSU. He's a big Tiger.
All right.
And so, anyway, Bo and Robert formed a business, and it was Riesfeld Holton. So once Robert Riesfeld passed away, Bo took it over, continued it on as Holton Brokerage, in which case I became the owner after Bo passed away in 2002 and renamed it Holton Meat Company. Now, the history is that there are a lot of sausage on Dewey, Tasso guys down the river, up the river, that need trimmings and need meat to do their processing. That's what Holton Meat Company, Riesfeld & Co. was. It was a company that provided them with the raw product that they could process and make into this delicious bits that we call somewhat of heaven every Monday in our beans, every Friday when you grill, on Sunday. So it's a real New Orleans company that has gone through the ringer, whether it's a hurricane, deaths, but it's withstood the test of time.
So you didn't make the sausages. You provided the meat to the sausage makers to make the sausage.
Yes.
Let them do the art.
Correct.
Do their,
So is that locally sourced, or was it?
No, typically we don't have that many slaughterhouses back in South Louisiana anymore. The larger ones are more in Omaha, and you can go all the way to Chicago. Depends. They're traded. All the trimmings are traded on the market daily, like a stock is. So you have to actually, provide these guys with a price, bring the meat down or store it. And some people like it fresh. Some people like it frozen. It grinds differently for different people. I've got a guy who we used to deal with in Lusher, Louisiana, who would always like his stuff fresh. Got a guy in Bogalusa who can't grind anything but frozen. It's just a matter of how they like it.
Is that? Do you think it tastes different, or it's a texture thing?
I think it's part of their recipe. These things back up into these old New Orleans families, and these recipes are coveted. So depending on how they did all of the meat at the time, they've carried those recipes forward. And like I said, they covet them with lock and key. And whether it's frozen, fresh, all the spices that go into the various pieces of meat, they will sit there and it's just a matter of the grinder.
So essentially you're receiving meat that's shipped in, and you have a big warehouse, or you have warehouses, or you have like refrigerated warehouses?
The refrigerated warehouses were up in Iowa. So basically they would slaughter, keep all the meat there, then as needed, ship it down.
Okay, and then you'd be giving it directly then to your customer.
FOB,
you didn't store it anymore.
Straight down, no. So, and at one point in time, we were actually using New Orleans cold storage, and then it just became cheaper to use it up there.
Now, do y'all still have you expanded to what y'all do too, or is it still just? Not just, but do y'all sell any other products, or do? I thought
we did expand. So, at first, when it was Holton Brokerage Company, which was what Robert Riesfeld's company became, I converted it into, or renamed it to Holton Meat Company. So Holton Meat Company became not only just trimmings and things for grinding, which would be sausage, andouille, things like that, but also primal cuts, people that would use whole butts, loins, things like that, and then they would take them, receive them, sell them to restaurants. So it became more of a multifaceted business at that point in time once we transformed the name. I didn't want it to be known as just a brokerage anymore. I wanted it to be known as a meat company.
Wow. So now, are you grossed out by meat then? I mean, they always make they always, I think about, that Sinclair Lewis novel they made us all read in high school, The Jungle. And, they always talk about you don't want to see sausage being made. That's like a phrase,
No, you don't.
How the sausage is made.
No, but,
I mean, I feel like, I have a friend who worked ice cream and he for a summer, and then he didn't eat ice cream for like a year. And I couldn't imagine that. It's got to be a lot worse with sausage.
If I could eat it every day, I still would. I mean, but, that'll end up killing you real quick. But, processes have become much more regulated federally and state, to where you have federally and regulated state warehouses. So you look at a processor now and you go in, and it's almost like some of these places are surgical. I mean, you go in and everything's clean. Everybody's got a net on. Everybody's got a jacket on. In the old days, not as much. Yes, I will admit. First day I went into a sausage plant after taking over the business, went to go meet my customer down near Fort Jackson. But anyway, I went down there.
Oh, way down there.
Walked in. This guy did cracklings. So I go in, and the smell alone knocked me on the back of my... I just couldn't even deal with it. I just took a second. I said, I have to answer this phone call. I walked back in. I kind of collected myself, and I said, this is business. This has been here for a long time. They're not going to get screwed up by me.
You got to get used to it.
So I went there. I went to several different places, and everybody does it differently. Guy in Mississippi does something called souse meat. Now, that's our version of head cheese. Okay, so this is not something you really want to see being made.
Right.
But
you may enjoy eating it, but you don't want to see it being made.
It tastes good, but you don't want to see that part of it. That one hit me again. It's just the smell alone in some of these places would get you. But I'll tell you what, in a lot of them, it smells like cooked meat. Because some people cook their sausage. They smoke it. So the majority of the smell is going to be a really nice, fragrant, woody smell.
So some smell like a garbage truck, and other ones smell like a barbecue restaurant.
Correct. The people that leave their product fresh.
Right.
So the fresh versus the smoked, there'd be a difference when you walked into the warehouse.
Now, I noticed on the website, y'all have recipes. They look great. Who wrote the recipes, and who is there's something about the Great Rooster. So who is the Great Rooster, and when did those recipes come about?
Margo, you know who the Great Rooster is, and you're sitting in front of him. I am the Rooster because of my last name.
Oh, my gosh. I am so dense. Okay.
Rooster.
You've known me for how long?
Is that Dutch? What is that?
I know, but I wasn't
okay.
expecting I thought it was going to be some, like, old guy's nickname because he's loud in the morning, or I don't know.
Yeah, that's like a symbol of Cajuns and stuff, too, isn't it? The rooster. And
I am.
All right. Well, I mean, because you're also on you do cook, right? You're on the Boar's Head barbecue cooking team.
It's the Boar's Nest.
Boar's Nest.
What is the Boar's Nest?
So the Boar's Nest is a team that we formed when Hogs for the Cause came to fruition, which started by Renee Luop and Becker Hall. So during the first Hogs for the Cause, there were probably 3 teams, Up with the Fly, 1 pig.
Wow.
And it's blossomed into this humongous festival. Anyway, we were one of the
it's like
original
Woodstock
team.
now.
It's
yeah,
huge. So anyway, we formed a team called the Boar's Nest Barbecue. My buddy Chris Puckett really started the whole thing, and now we have really blossomed into a huge team. But our passion is cooking, and our drive was to promote pediatric brain cancer, and then. Furthermore,
treatment for pediatric brain cancer. You want to promote the cancer.
No, exactly. Thank you for pointing that out. But anyway, the fact is that we wanted to do something with one of our passions, which is cooking, getting together, drinking beer, and smoking meat. So basically, we got this whole group of friends together, and we ended up with this fantastic team. Now we get together more than once a year. We get together several times a year and do several different outings.
Do you do it them to raise money? Is it and to the camaraderie in the cooking?
It is. So
is that sort of like a warm up for the big one then too? So it keeps you so you're not rusty during the year.
There are always practices. The practices are great. In fact, we're going to practice. We have a practice coming up this week. We're going to be practicing. We have a 35-foot smoker. We call it the Big Nasty.
A 35-foot smoker.
Yeah, it's called the Big Nasty, and
Gosh,
so
it's wider than my house.
The way that this Big Nasty came to fruition was, my buddy Puckett saw a smoker on the side of a road, and the guy said, "If you want it, take it." And we took this thing.
It was 35 feet.
No, at this point in time, it was just a box smoker. We put it on a small trailer. And this has continued to grow around this original free smoker. That has become, I'm certain, very expensive.
How do you move it? You got to get a tractor trailer, huh?
No, we have a couple of vehicles that are.
Can you break it up?
No, don't break it up. But you can either tow it with a truck, suburban. Just have to be very careful because it is long. So, and my neighbors know it when I'm smoking because typically I'll park it in front of my house. So last year for Thanksgiving, I said, "Look, I'm coming in with the smoker. Bring me a turkey. I'll smoke it for you for Thanksgiving." We ended up doing 35 turkeys.
It's a brilliant way to get the neighbors to like you.
Neighbors love me. They love me. I'll tell you what. Everybody loves you when you're feeding them free barbecue.
Yeah. Now wait a second. So you can do 35 turkeys at once?
Oh, that's just on the 2 shelves.
You can do more than 35 turkeys.
We can do about 680 pounds.
680 pounds of meat at one time.
How long does it? I don't understand.
So we're going to be smoking pork butts on Thursday night for a Newman football game for Friday night. So we'll do 20 pork butts for about between 12 and 14 hours.
Each,
all at once.
wow.
And we'll smoke them over pecan wood
Huh.
at about 230 to 240 degrees.
Wow.
And after that,
How much wood do you go through?
we go through quite a bit. I mean, we'll buy about a cord a year, and we'll burn probably about 140 logs for this.
140 logs.
Yeah. I
So
mean, it's
like-
a big firebox.
That's 10 logs an hour.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. But
All right.
we have the thing hooked up. We have the thing hooked up to where you can see the temperature internal.
A
You
log
see
every
the
6 minutes.
The internal. They're good. We don't have it down to that. We just see when it burns down. Throw a log on.
So I want to know a little bit about how you got into cooking. What was your background, and what's your relationship with food?
So I'm in love with food first, and I think why everybody else on this show is. But growing up in New Orleans and going to school in New Orleans, you always kind of take it for granted. Like coming home at night, having the kitchen smell nice, being provided with a really warm meal, hopefully, you end up saying, no, that's good. So, the red beans on Monday, pork roast, flank steak, whatever comes, whatever was. But I didn't really ever think about it because my mother was doing it. Mom was giving 3 kids meals, square meals, so we could get upstairs, get out of her hair, finish, eat, and go. But it was always good. It was always like the kitchen smelled great. That's not what really drove me to cooking. So I remember the real drop-dead time when I started to cook, and it was literally through attrition. I had an apartment on Hillary Street. I'm at Tulane University, and I'm going, I got to eat. And I'm not calling Mom. So
Ramen noodles were out of the question.
ramen noodles were out of the question. At the time, there was a Piggly Wiggly on St. Charles. That is now Willie Mae's Scotch House.
Ah.
I had that. I had a Winn-Dixie up the street, and I just go in there and buy. Other than that, I also was an avid hunter and fisherman. So everything I harvested, I would end up cooking, frying. I screwed up so much. I mean, there was more stuff that was inedible than was edible. But I learned, and then my mom gave me the Cotton Country Cookbook, which was probably on every southern, uptown, downtown, Metairie, everybody's shelf. And this had everything from soup to nuts. And I started following some of these recipes. And then I started adapting some of these recipes. And then I got a barbecue pit. And then I started smoking.
You got a barbecue pit in college?
I got a barbecue pit at my apartment in college.
All right.
I had a charbroil, charcoal, regular old charcoal barbecue pit. And I can remember inviting people over for smoked ducks.
Smoked ducks.
And I had these ducks on a rotisserie, smoking over a rotisserie.
You're 19 years old at this point.
But the fact of the matter is, you have to understand how much fat is in a duck. About 2.5 hours into it, the ducks were done. And I don't mean done edible. I mean done. They looked like a rock. They had caught on fire. The fat had lit up. It burned the handle off my barbecue pit. It burned the spit, burned my hand, and we had order pizza. So like I said, learning to cook through attrition is the best way. When you really, really want it to taste good, you're going to screw it up. But when you really, really try hard, you're going to eat.
All right. Well, your plus one is here, and I'd like you to introduce for us who this is, why you selected him.
Well, my buddy Tav Fitzpatrick has entered the building.
Tav, welcome.
Hey, how you doing?
So Tav
Who's
is
Tav? Why'd you bring him?
So Tav's one of my buddies. Actually, we met through cooking, through mutual friends.
All right.
We're both on the Boar's Nest cooking team, and we're the charter members on this team. Tav is one of those people who he does like food, he does like to cook, and he's one of the integral parts of the team. But he's one of those guys that just emanates New Orleans. It's just a New Orleans guy that will always roll with the punches. So he's there food-wise to help out with our cause. He's there to build the tent. He's there to have fun. He's here with me to drink beer and talk about whatever you guys are going to ask us.
All right.
So my plus one is my wingman.
All right.
Welcome, Tom.
Welcome, Tav.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
So how did you meat? Besides, I mean, were you friends before the Boar's Nest?
No,
crew?
that was if I remember correctly, that was probably the catalyst that brought us together when, like you was mentioned, Chris Bucket was putting together a team, and I like to eat more than I know how to cook, so I kind of came on board as I always call myself the resident geek. So when the Boar's Nest was taking off and when Hogs for the Cause was taking off, we had a bigger and bigger tent, and I came on board and brought a big blow-up inflatable screen because there was always NBA Final Four games on, and so it was such a long event, and people were there. I mean, we camp out there. It's a fantastic, almost 72 hours for some guys like me. And
So you sleep there every night too?
yeah, I bring a tent. Some guys bring trailers, and they camp out there for
bring a
Thursday
tent.
night, Friday night, and even Saturday night. Really,
I'm telling you, it's like Burning Man or whatever out there. Yeah, it's like,
it actually,
It is, because there's a cloud of smoke, whether it's pecan, hickory,
more than one.
charcoal.
More than one.
There's a lot of smoke out there.
And I'd have my laptop, and I'd just be able to put on, some games or whatever else, just to keep people entertained. Because when you're eating, a lot of people just slip into a food coma. And we had couches in our big tent and a big screen TV, and we put on the basketball games or whatever else people wanted to watch. And so, I guess one of the more avid food tasters, and then anything technology related kind of falls on my back, and I'm happy to shoulder it.
Is that what you do for your day job?
Yes, I work for a company called Bellwether Technology downtown in the CBD.
And what do you do there? What is that?
Primarily, it's like IT consulting. I run the small office and home office portion of it. So we have our bread and butter customers with like the larger enterprise businesses, and then there was a constant need for the higher ups in those businesses to have home support done. So eventually we kind of split off this little side wing where I would go to people's houses and set up whatever they needed to be set up. Like a lot of the times they needed remote access back to their main business, and all sorts of stuff, and it's just branched out from there.
Cool. So you will do homes, like personal
Yes.
projects? Y'all take care of that too?
Yep, we do.
Excellent.
Can you fix our calendar, please?
Yes, our Google Calendar shot.
Oh my God! Let's not.
Oh,
get
why
into
did I bring that up?
But we're going to hit you up after the show
Please
for
do.
technical support.
Hey,
Excellent.
he took over the Roos house the other day and did a fine job. When you have 3 kids doing the internet all at once, we needed some big firepower.
And Chris, I know you have other business interests and things that you brought to Holton Meat Company. What is some of your other background? in your
So
other day
when
job?
I was at Tulane, I actually was part owner of a transportation brokerage, which is a trucking company that brokers trucks. So I did that for 7 years.
What do you mean? What do they
So
to who?
to anybody that needs freight moved. So we would utilize what's called basically a deadhead. So people that are moving freight from point A to point B need to have a way to go from point B to back to point A to pick up their money or their money job or their money load. So we would wait for trucks. There was a system you could subscribe to that would show you where the trucks are in the country. We had customers that needed to move sugar, cotton, grain, canned goods, you named it. And we put those two together and we would ship the loads for them. We would do between 120 and 150 loads a week between me and my partner.
So were you loading it up yourself physically?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I was doing it by a phone. Sitting there basically operating the company, booking the loads, talking to the drivers.
So you're making serious money in college already?
You
with
knew how to
this?
delegate.
Well, we were doing okay. I mean, we
Did your parents know? Were they making you pay any of your own tuition then?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Oh really?
Oh yeah.
You paid 100% of your tuition?
I paid the last 3 years of my bill at Tulane.
Wow.
That's impressive.
That is super impressive.
Yeah. Well, I have a long stint at Tulane. You got to take those last 3. I didn't tell you how long it took me.
Yeah, your last 3 years was year 7,
Right.
8, 9.
Exactly. They call me a doctor.
Well, I mean, actually, you know what? I mean, it should be with all those other ventures. You're making your own restaurant at your house, and you got your own side businesses. That's amazing.
Well, Tav, did you grow up in New Orleans?
Yeah, I've got a checkered past, so to speak. My family's from
we
here.
love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's started off. My dad worked for what was Mobil Oil, and he was an international lawyer. So I was the short version is I was born in New York. I moved down to New Orleans for 3 years. Then I was in London for 3 years. Then Holland for 3 years. And then back to New Orleans for 4 years. And then to Paris. And then to boarding school in Virginia. And then college up in Connecticut, Hartford, Connecticut. So I moved a lot.
Did you, like Army brats, did you have a hard time making friends? Because that's a lot of moving. Or making connections with people.
You know,
at that time?
after the second or third move, that kind of came naturally, frankly. I mean, it was just another move, and I would just settle in and start to make friends, and it just kind of came naturally, I guess. But,
okay.
When I met my wife soon after I graduated college, and she just happened to be from New Orleans as well. And so we decided to, both move down here, and that was it. I've been here for the past 15 years.
Oh, so
no intention to
you're
move.
not nomadic.
No,
like that.
no. I think that portion of my life is hopefully done for at least a little while longer. I was just tired of moving.
So I want to hear some of the checkered though part. Is this checkered because you moved a lot, or did they have to move because you were getting in trouble?
No, it was a little bit of both. I mean, jeez, the
come on,
checkered
this is
part,
a lifestyle show. This
okay,
is not a cooking show.
Yeah, I gotcha. The checkered part really isn't all that checkered. It was Paris, and it was very similar to New Orleans. I mean, the drinking age in Paris is like, I think it's either, back when I was there, it was 14 for beer and like 18 for liquor. Right. And so, I was 14. I was living in the 17th arrondissement, which is like 8 or 9 blocks away from the Champs-Élysées. And as high schoolers, we would be doing what college kids did. And we, go out all hours of the night, have too much fun. And frankly, by the time my junior year rolled around, I knew I wasn't going to get into a good college. And I was like, all right, I got to pull the plug on this. And I basically redid my junior year and went to boarding school in Virginia. And then springboarded over there into Trinity up in Hartford, Connecticut.
A lot to be said for boarding school.
Huh?
Yeah.
A lot to be said for boarding school.
Now, you went to boarding school?
Yeah.
Tell us about your boarding school experience.
So kindergarten through 8th grade, Newman School. And then 9th through senior year, Culver Military Academy in Culver, Indiana.
Why Indiana? And why military?
There were a couple of kids from my class and a couple of New Orleans people that were already there. They were familiar with it. I'd gone to summer school there to learn how to fly when I was 14.
Fly,
huh?
Airplanes.
Fly airplanes.
Fly airplanes. They had a flight program. So Culver has
very supportive
Culver has a really.
Were your parents
cool
trying to
program.
kill you?
No, not at that point in time. Not at that point in time. So
here, kid, get in an airplane.
Right.
Why don't you fly this?
Here are the keys.
Here are the keys. Yeah,
Up
right.
is that way.
Yeah.
So went to military school, and it was a fantastic. Sounds like New Orleans. Anyway, it was a fantastic experience. There was no other experience like going to that school. It was, to me, it was a step up from Newman, which is already a great school academically. I was surrounded by people that were expatriates from Saudi Aramco. I had a Spanish roommate for 3 years who taught me every bad word I could know. I had 3 years of Spanish in high school and 3 years of Spanish in college. And when I got to Mexico with him, I knew how to say, I'd like to go to the bathroom, and can I play a guitar? But
and how to bust bail, huh?
No, didn't get that far. I'd still be there. But Culver was a unique place that if anybody knows about it and has heard about it, it's a pretty cool place to go to school.
It wasn't difficult to be in a military academy. I mean, the strictness and
the strictness. That freshman year will get a hold of you, but.
Did they paddle you?
No paddles. There's plenty of stuff, but it's a combination of strictness and a combination of academia that really makes you grow up real quick. Now, granted, my dad had died in 1981 when I was 11, so I was in a house with my mother and my 2 sisters. Now, nobody in the male race wants to grow up in a house with 3 hormonal women ever. So this was a school that I picked and went to. So
there wasn't a drop of estrogen there in Culver Military Academy.
No, they had a girls academy.
Oh,
Don't get me wrong.
okay.
They had a girls academy. We took classes together, kind of separate schools, dressed with the kilts similar to Sacred Heart of McGee's, and very, very close contact with them, but very separate as far as the military aspect goes. They weren't military, we were.
Oh.
So it was welcomed to get out of the house and to have that kind of structure.
All right. And what was Virginia like?
It was actually a reprieve from the insanity that was going on in Paris. So I kind of slid. Like I said, I pulled myself out of Paris and all the little things that I was doing over there, and
Bad
so
habits.
I embraced boarding school. I was only for 2 years too. I mean, the 4-year guys went nuts, as I'm sure Roos can attest to. But for just 2 years, it was frankly a good break, and I really didn't. I was extremely well behaved, as shocking as that might sound. So I didn't get in any trouble those 2 years, and that was it. It was fun.
All right. Well, we've come to the part of the show where we go, it's called Off the Menu, and you get asked a question you would not be asked in any reputable business interview or, application. And my question for you, Chris, comes from Julian Weiner, who is 8 years old.
I know that child.
Yes.
I think I met him tonight.
Well, he would like to know, because you're a hunter, he would like to know if you could only hunt and eat one of these things for the rest of your life, which would it be? Well, I guess you don't hunt fish, but he wanted to know if you would eat fish for the rest of your life or meat.
I like fish a lot, but I got to tell you, there's something about a well-cooked, rare backstrap of venison that, prepared correctly, you can't beat it. It's served at few restaurants, served as a special here at a few restaurants as well. But when it's cooked correctly, it's better than any tenderloin of pork, tenderloin of filet. It's very lean, it's served at rare. You can make a sauce, cranberries, juniper berries, whatever you can serve with it, like a dark currant. It makes your mouth water.
Excellent. All right.
Super rare in New Orleans for the most part, though. If any of our listeners are developing new restaurant ideas while listening to the show, I know some budding restaurateurs. That's a good idea to jump on that bandwagon. You could have the corner of the market in New Orleans.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Venice,
Sous vide, sear it, and then serve it.
Where here would you get venison? I mean, can you think besides cooking it in your
Holton Meat Company?
I think there are a couple places that do have it. I think that some of the uptown restaurants like Gautreau's, I think that Patois has served it before. I think that Clancy's has served it as a special before, and then I think you have
it's more
to have
of a
really
special, though.
very,
It's not
very
really
special.
a regular part.
There was
of
a
the menu.
restaurant that really did a good job in the quarter way back when. It's called En and En was part of the Provincial Hotel, and they served one of the best backstraps of venison that I'd ever had. And he wouldn't give me the secret either.
Now, one question back about Holton Meat Company. Since you have recipes on there that are well written, very accessible, by the way, can regular people buy meat from it, or is it mostly wholesale?
It's mostly wholesale.
Okay.
So when you look on those recipes, typically it's stuff that you can buy at the grocery store. So Holton Meat Company is going to be providing people with full or half truckloads of meat. If somebody wants a half truckload of meat delivered to their house, I will be happy to deliver it.
Okay.
Wow.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, I got distracted by all this barbecue talk, so I'm gonna go with something different. I'm just gonna ask you a question about barbecue. So today we had the devastating news that came out that Nola's Smokehouse is going under.
Mm-hmm.
That is honestly, flags are to fly at half mast tomorrow. People will wear black armbands. It's a horrible moment in the culture of our city. But I mean, I hope he does something. I hope he comes back in another form. But anyway, so now that place is gone, what's your second favorite? Because that's got to be your favorite. What's your second favorite barbecue in New Orleans?
Man, my second favorite barbecue. Honestly, it's stuff that we cook. I mean, I hate to say it. Let me take that back.
All right, you got to go out to dinner at a barbecue place. Where are you going to go?
I mean, McClure's. I live right close to there.
There you go.
And he's always put together some good stuff. And actually, this is
right. We're in his headquarters here. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's probably going to go downstairs and eat some right now. But he's it's right on the parade route for a lot of parades. It's got some really good barbecue across from one of my other favorite bars. And he's
Le Bon Temps?
I was at Le Bon Temps last night. Yeah, I love that place.
Yeah, it's a great bar. But yeah, he smokes some good meat.
Lee Harvey Oswald's favorite bar, by the way, too. Henry's disputes that. Henry's they say that they were his favorite bar, but I'm not sure. On the topic of things shutting down, last week we talked to Joe of Sandwich shutting down, and then also Rare Cuts went under.
Yep.
Now you probably have a special perspective on that. Do you have any particular? Did you have any dealings with Rare Cuts? Did you supply for them?
No, actually, what I did supply their supplier.
Okay.
So I didn't deliver directly to them.
Because they were wonderful. I don't know as a business model, but just as delivering a product, I thought Rare Cuts was wonderful. And it was so sad to see him go under. You have any opinions on why something like that didn't last?
I had way back when, before Rare Cuts started, I was sitting at Charlie's Steakhouse.
Love it.
Discussing this exact business model.
Yeah.
And my business model was almost to a T, Rare Cuts. And they set it up. And I think what I thought, they knocked it out of the park.
Yeah.
Now, I think the business model needed, or what it needed to me, was more delivery. If I were to call at 6 o'clock on a Wednesday and say, I would like 2 Roosters T-bones,
right,
that butcher knows exactly how to cut it. And I had thought you'd have a fleet of guys like Jimmy John's.
Right.
Delivering these steaks to people all over Uptown.
Right.
It's great. But, the business model in that type of restaurant and that type of butcher shop is hard because of your inventory. So, I don't know what happened. I hope they come back in a different form. I mean, we have Cleaver & Co.
Right.
That kind of transformed. Now, they source all their meat within 200 miles of the city.
Neat.
And, you have Chris's Meats. That's not mine. But Chris's Meat that opened up last week out off of West End.
I saw that going in, but I didn't know it opened up.
Yep, just opened up. It took him a while. It opened up, and he's got the same type of thing, kind of like a Glenn Mistich type of deal, the Gourmet Butcher Block. He's got the stuffed birds and things like that. And I'm anxious to try that as well.
Cool.
But, Chef Rob definitely had the best burn-ins in the city, hands down.
Oh, he was amazing. That guy's a nut too. He's so committed. He used to sleep in that. He slept there 5 days a week. He would get 45 minutes of sleep. His alarm would go off. Then he'd feed the cooker, and then he'd go back to sleep again for 45 minutes.
Well, who can maintain like that?
I mean, maybe that's the real reason. Maybe he was making a bundle because I know he used to sell out. So he'd sell out for the day at like 1 o'clock.
But who
People
could
would
keep
line
up that type of?
So maybe that's what it was.
The key is to sell out. I mean, if you take the model from LA 23 Barbecue, which is my favorite barbecue place in the city. Sorry, McClure's. But the two guys that started up LA 23 Barbecue, which is directly across the street from Bell Chase Air Station.
Yeah.
Aaron Gelfand and Bobby Monstead. And they have the best brisket in the city, hands down.
Wow.
And
wait, it's down in Bell Chase though?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Come on, it's
That's
15
not really the
minutes.
city.
It's 15 minutes. but the fact is that their model is to sell out every day. If you got there too late, there's a big sign that says "out of food."
Right.
And so now they're starting to do beef ribs, and it's great. They'll do some catering, but their model is sell out every day. Because I used to supply them.
That's what Rob was doing. Rob was selling out every day. I mean, there would be lines out there. It was like a Bruce Springsteen concert. As people like camping out.
These are two uptown guys that just basically chased their dreams. They're charter captains when the weather's nice, and they're barbecue guys. And they chased their dream, and they did it, and they're
That's
successful.
living a passionate life.
They did. I mean, they bought a place next to
Speaking of barbecue again, now you had a show on. Was it an episode of a show, or was it a whole show?
It was a 1-hour episode on a show hosted by a guy by the name of G. Garvin.
Okay.
And it was called the Underground Barbecue Challenge.
All right.
So what happened was, and I'm not sure really how they
Travel
found
Channel,
us.
right?
It was on the Travel Channel. So they found my buddy Chris Bucket, and then Chris had to get a +1, which was me. Asked me to be his +1. They interviewed us, did this big deal on camera, and then we basically were asked out of, I guess, about 13 teams to be on a show to represent our New Orleans borough.
All right.
So we represented Uptown, and we didn't know who we were battling against. Now it was
so it was neighborhood by neighborhood in Uptown.
Neighborhood against neighborhood.
Really? How did I miss this? Wow.
So
who'd you go against?
So we basically started filming, and then they said you got to show up at Jackson Square, 8:30 a.m. And it was one of those things where you showed up, and there are two guys standing across from you. guy by the name of Jay Pogge from the Upper Ninth Ward, and his number 1 against myself and Puckett. And then he gives you your protein. He says, you're going to be cooking, and pauses.
Yeah.
Pork shoulder.
All right.
And let me tell you, that was a moment that Puckett and I looked at each other and we said, we got this. You look at it, we high five, we say we got it. So
did you win?
you got to watch it.
Oh, it hasn't aired yet.
It's aired. But
it has
anyway,
aired. Oh, okay.
we won.
You won, all right. So you got like 10K or something, right?
Yes.
Wow. Impressive.
Now, did y'all? What was your reason behind doing that? Besides your passion for barbecue, I mean, did you have the desire to go on? I mean, were you approached and you wanted to be famous, or was it the money you wanted to donate the money? Or
I think at first it was just to do our passion and to show everybody how passionate we are about this type of cooking. And then we did decide that once we had the money that we would donate the majority of that to Hogs for the Cause, which we did.
Nice.
Which is great. Now, we did put some into the smoker. That's why she's 35 feet now. But Tav was on the show. We had all basically.
What would it cost to build that smoker?
A lot. I'm sure.
What do you mean you were on the show? You weren't part. You were part of the team.
Well, what we had to do is we had to throw a party for 85 people.
Oh.
So what happened was they gave us. The way the show happens is they follow you around as you're sourcing everything. They follow you in the kitchens while you're cooking, coming up with recipes. So we ended up getting the meat. We had to pick a place to throw a party. So we picked the Newman Pavilion at Audubon Park.
Cool.
That's right over the pond.
Yeah.
It was the coldest day of the year. By far, it was sleeting. It never sleets in New Orleans. We're cooking outside. And you can see on the TV show the fires go out, everything. It's just a headache. And we had to cook basically not just the pork shoulder, but we cooked 5 different things. Towards the end of this, they come out with a surprise ingredient. G. Garvin shows up with a roller with a skinned alligator for me.
Skinned alligator.
Whole alligator.
Have you smoked an alligator before?
Pork and alligator?
Never smoked an alligator.
Wow.
Yep. But what we did was you can't eat anything on the
It was
alligator.
already skinned.
It was. That was the easy part. So, they gave us the whole alligator. I chopped the tail off.
Now, was it like gutted and everything too?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so it's just the meat.
Yeah, it's
And
just
it's
the
on
meat.
bones.
It is. But, the tail, if you take the tail off, cut the tail off, they're 4 tenderloins. The bones look like a cross, and you take out the 4 tenderloins, and they end up like 4 pork tenderloins. I sliced them thin. We soaked them in buttermilk. We pounded them, panko crusted them, and fried them.
All right, when they bring out the alligator, do you you have time then to go consult people about recipes and so forth, or just like right there on the fly you did all that?
Right there on the fly.
Wow.
We had sawhorses with sheets of plywood that we were working on. So we also made a crawfish cornbread stuffed pork shoulder. Well, it's actually the picnic end. We made grits and griots out of some of the bits, and then we made a cold smoked barbecued shrimp.
Nice.
As well as
And the greens.
and as well as the greens.
The greens went over
which
well.
G. Garvin looked at me, and he said, "Okay." He tasted it. He looks up, and he goes, "Where's the old black woman at?" And of course, my partner looked at me. I have a cooking hat, and he goes, "Under that hat." And we had.
Did they leave
cooked-
that on the air? Did that make the air?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah. Everything's on the air. But it was a great show. It was a great experience. When the host came in, Puckett had contacted Tulane University, so we had the Tulane University band walk the hosts in.
Nice.
So we had Bevelot lights up and some shutters, and we made the whole facade look pretty good. And Tav helped out by scurrying around in the city to go get stuff during that day.
So did you have a budget then too? Like you couldn't exceed a certain amount of money for it and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But they provide the money for the
well,
party.
no,
right?
they gave us a budget, and we just basically had to scurry around and get everything either donated or helped.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was fun though. It was an hour. Like I said, it was an hour episode. And then
How long did it take
That's
you
an all-day
total? What was
affair.
it?
It was 4 days,
4 days.
and we couldn't tell anybody.
Ah.
So the people that were there couldn't tell anybody. They signed a contract. We had $1 million liability rider out there. So we waited 8 months until this thing aired, and then we did a big screening. And
with the smoker.
not with the smoker. Everybody
Tav,
with
did
an
you send
alligator.
up this big screen?
I believe so.
We went to one of my friend who owns a film editing spot down in the warehouse district. We went to his spot, which is like a movie theater, and we aired it there. And everybody, we had champagne, and we wanted champagne. Nobody knew that we won except for the people that were there.
Oh, so you had to keep a straight face when people were asking.
We had to keep a straight face.
Didn't we have a guest who broke their silence about something and got kicked off a show? Maybe I'm dreaming.
Yeah, that sounds vaguely
They're
familiar.
serious about that. On
yeah,
this,
you can get. Yeah.
Well, I think that what they were doing was selling the advertising, and if they sell the advertising, then people that find out who won aren't going to watch it.
Right.
Aren't going to buy the
So you're
Coca-Cola,
liable.
whatever.
Yes, and you'd be liable.
Exactly.
They could sue you, huh?
That's what we signed.
Man. Well, I think we're running out of time, unfortunately, are we not? Yes. We are just about out.
Well,
Do you have a final question, Margot?
Well, how about would either of y'all like to plug anything or support anything coming up? Any good cause?
I'd say Hogs for the Cause. I mean, my company Bellwether sponsors it. Holbridge does. I mean, there's a whole bunch of people doing it. It's a fantastic event. I think if the weather's good, it's great to bring your kids, kid friendly, and we're one of the 3 biggest tents out there, and it's just a fun event for a great cause and some fantastic food. So highly recommend. If you haven't been, go ahead and check it out.
Excellent.
Well, we'll have links to that on our webpage.
I'll agree to that. We as a team, the Boar's Nest Barbecue are an official 501c3, and we raise money specifically to forward Hogs for the Cause. And let me tell you, as far as beneficial and being able to see the pass-through, being invited by Renee and Becker to go to Children's Hospital and give the money directly to these kids, there's no more humbling experience than seeing the fruits of your labor and your passion pay off.
All
Beautiful.
right. Beautiful. Well, we'll close with that. Our special guest tonight on Midnight Menu Plus One was Chris Roos of Holton Meats, and his plus one was Tav Fitzpatrick. You can find out more about our special guests and much more by following the links on our website. It's neworleans.com.
Thanks to Petite Pet Care and the NOLA Brewing Tap Room also for the awesome beer this evening, our sponsors.
And if we mentioned NOLA Brewing Tap Room is open every day from 11 to 11. You can come here anytime and join us back here next week for another Midnight Menu Plus One.
Thanks again, guys. And till next week, I'm Margot Moss.
And I'm Ray Canada. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thanks.
You know Labor Day signals the unofficial end of summer, but not the end of your outdoor projects. Lowe's helps you do it right and helps you save with Labor Day deals throughout the store. Shop now and get 2 bags of Stay Green potting mix for $12. And keep your lawn looking neat and trim with a Craftsman 2-cycle 17-inch gas string trimmer, now $20 off at just $119. Whatever's still on your to-do list this Labor Day, do it right for less. Start with Lowe's. Offers valid through 8/28. Soil offer excludes Alaska and Hawaii. U.S. only.